Welcome to Trendy Words, the podcast about the words and phrases that we love to use in business and marketing, but are often misleading, meaningless, or outright bullshit. What could we be saying that's more effective? My name is Andrew, copywriter and eternal lover of scones, and today I'm joined by my guest, Jon Harrison. Hi, John.
Hello.
How's things?
Yeah, I will have an admission. I've been telling everybody I'm coming on the Wanky Words podcast.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah.
So apologies in advance for anybody who's been searching Wanky Words.
I'll try to include that in the show notes so that it's keyworded when people try to look this up. Before we, get into it, for those of people that maybe don't know who you are, would you like to maybe share a bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm John, and I am one of the co-owners of a advertising agency called One Black Bear, which is based in Birmingham. This year we celebrate our 22nd year in business, which is quite an achievement, I'm told. But it doesn't seem like we've been doing it that long, apart from all the grey hair that I've developed. And now I walk into any room I walk into, I tend to be the oldest person in there, which I think is an interesting thing. I think it was Julian Cope who once said, yeah, I know I'm a has-been, but if I keep on going, I will become a legend. I think that's kind of where I am at the point in my career at the moment. But yeah, I've worked with my best mate and creative oppo, Rich, since 1991. So we're now celebrating 34 years of sort of creative marriage this year. Yeah, and as an agency, we're not big. We're a small sort of what you call boutique agency. There's 15 of us, which is a size that we like. 15 very talented, very hardworking people. We work with big brands, small brands, charities, third sector, and we do pretty much everything you could possibly think of in terms of the marketing mix. From a creative perspective, we're very much, first and foremost, a creative agency.
As a side note there, I think at 22 years, you must be one of the oldest agencies in all of Birmingham.
I don't know. I think there's a few that have got a few years on us still. You got RBH, McCann, WAA. Just to name a few. Cogent have been around forever. So, but yeah, we're still a young whippersnapper compared to some. We're still the upstarts, and whenever I meet people from those agencies, I still think they look at us and think that we are upstarts, and I think I quite like that position. To be seen as a little upstart and a little bit of an annoying wasp around the place.
Yeah, and I guess start off on our phrase today, if there's one thing that us as marketers love annoying people with, if it's not telling them how the shiny new thing is going to change everything, it's proclaiming the death of something.
Absolutely.
And the death of
filling
anything
the blank here
is our phrase for today.
It is. So yeah, it's one of those things, you can't look online or anywhere these days without some idiot basically proclaiming the death of something. And and it's got to that point now, the whole AI situation and the whole, even Mark Zuckerberg came out a couple of weeks ago saying he's coming after the $1.65 trillion advertising agency model and he's going to destroy it. And so you've got this thing of there's always going to be the death of something on the radar. And I think, almost one of the advantages of being around so long is I've seen it so many times and nothing actually ever dies. So, and it's just, I think it's it's a flippant comment. It's not really thought through. It's done to get attention because obviously now the way to get attention is just to say something controversial or something that's going to pick up an argument with somebody. so that you can have arguments with strangers on the internet. I mean, what's the point in life if that's what turns you on? But there is, and usually there's sort of, if you look behind why they're saying it, it's because saying the death of something actually benefits them. And I think we've been through it so many times. Going all the way back, TV was going to be the death of radio. Never was. Yeah, podcasts are going to be the death of radio. They're not.
Yeah.
Radio's still going.
We're trying so hard here to kill off radio. Look at us go. Yeah.
But even get to the thing of the streaming services were going to be the death of linear TV on the basis that no one's going to want to watch ads anymore, and so your traditional TV model is going to die. Well, what's happened? Netflix have suddenly introduced advertising onto their platform.
Yeah.
Because it has to come. There's always going to be the death of the internet was going to be the death of everything. And, not just our industry, but the death of absolutely everything. It's just like, no, it's not. I mean, I think the key to it is people suffer along the way, especially short term. People do suffer along the way. People lose their jobs. There are certain parts of industries that shut down, but as a whole, it's not the thing that actually kills off anything. And I think, we're just at this moment in time, we're going through this AI revolution, and it is a revolution. Some say it's going to be bigger, the most important revolution the world has ever seen, and bigger than the Industrial Revolution. And it is going to affect a lot of people, and it's going to affect a lot of people's jobs and securities. But it's also, I think, a great level. You lean into these things. And, having started an agency before social media really existed, and then that came along and social media was going to kill everything. And then you lean into it and you say, well, no, it's just another tool. We can make this work, and we can do this. AI is just another tool, and it's getting better and better. Of course it is. And it is going to upend quite a few things. But ultimately, we're facing down the fact that I think there's one of my favourite quotes of all time is from the Invincible movie. And it's what was he? Buddy Pine, the guy, the baddie who played Syndrome, and he said he was doing The Incredibles. When everyone is super, no one will be, and that's the thing. So again, when AI is the great leveler, which it will be a great leveler. You're still then going to have to come back and say, right, I now need people who can think differently, who can do something differently, because I've now got to find my creative edge. So, it goes all the way back to the 60s, and, Bill Bernbach that said, something along the lines of, creativity is the only competitive advantage we can have over our competition, because, you've got to be different. You've got to think differently. And so I think there's always this thing of, rather than being the death of creativity and the death of creatives, and the death of advertising and the death of marketing, and actually it's just another tool. And what we'll do is we'll find a way to use it, and we'll find a way to make everything work off the back of it, because that's what we do. We're creative minds. We work out how to do these things.
The proclamation of the death of, in the sense that it's an attempt by people to try and feel relevant, to try and feel like they're ahead of the game, because they'll look cool if it all works out. Even if in a way that, like, declaring the death of things seems to completely ignore both the history and everything that we know about behavioral psychology as marketers.
And so you'll get people, come on, so things like TikTok is the death of the TV ad.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at them and go, why are you saying that? Oh, you make your living out of TikTok. That's why you're saying it. And there's always this thing of, and it is, and don't get me wrong, it affects, and we all take, sort of have to take a look at it and say, well, where's the opportunity for survival with these things? And you find them. And, Yeah, but ultimately, I think it's it's a strange thing because having heard it so many times, well, I know, years ago I used to get spooked by it. Now I just get annoyed by it, and I get annoyed by the people who are saying it because I think what you don't, there's such a selfish kind of reasoning behind it. There's always something that's self-centered for why these people say these things, and what they don't realize is that the broader impact of what they say. Because you will get whether you're a small operation that's just trying to survive and you're saying these things for just some kind of impact, or whether you're a huge influencer and you say these things, and people listen to you, people believe you, and before you know it, people start disregarding things. And I think the danger really is you know I'm looking at the third generation to come through in this industry since I first joined it, and I spend some time up at the university talking to students. I spend time in various places talking to young creatives that I meet at events, and there's this fear with them embarking on their career. It's going to be a complete waste of time, and everything's going to disappear. And you think, no, don't we? We're having an exodus from this industry of good quality talent.
Mhm.
And that's been going on, and that's at both ends in terms of we seem to be, and we've always been an industry that's kind of booted people out well before they should be kicked out.
Mhm.
We've got so many people got so much more to offer. They're deemed as expensive. Well, not having them is more expensive, to be honest. But then you've got the young guys coming through who are now scared of what the future holds from in this industry, and it is this kind of have I chosen the wrong career path? And that's the ones who are coming into it. So now you've got the ones who would have maybe considered coming into the industry, and now saying, no, I don't want anything to do with it, and I don't want to be part of it. And that's a real shame because they don't they get scared by these things and say, well, what's the point of getting a job doing that? AI is going to kill it.
Mm.
Right, okay.
And it's kind of myopic because it means that when the pendulum eventually swings the other way, you're left looking, being like, ah, it's too bad that I didn't get in, that I didn't get in when I had lots of time and opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
Because everything will change. Everything will find its own equilibrium. Sure, we're in a state of disruption at the moment, and it's certainly not helped by, if you exclude AI, I find from a lot of the economic analyses, it's the fact that investment in so many sectors is currently at an all-time low. And the general sentiment of a lot of business owners seems to be really pessimistic about things. So I feel like AI, the problem with AI isn't really AI itself, but the fact that there isn't really any competing voice
Yeah.
for growth in the market at the moment. So it makes it look like AI is the only thing with any kind of potential.
And
Because
it's not just AI. I mean, you've got
yeah,
you now got a swing towards brands in housing things, and it's fine.
Mhm.
There's in-house teams, and there's and it's like, oh, we're going to take all this. And we said early on, when we first started working a lot within the social area, there was this push towards not having a fucking idea. It was just like, just produce any old shit and get it out there. Be fine. Go,
Mm.
go, go. And it
Yeah,
was like, right, okay, well, and we said early on, well, that's not where we want to go,
yeah,
purely because we don't believe it's right. But also, as soon as what you're selling to a client is bullshit like that, they look at it and go, well, why am I paying you for that? I could just do that in house.
mm.
And a lot of them have done. I mean, you've only got to spend 5 minutes online looking at the quality of some of the content that comes out of some of the bigger brands, and you go, what the hell are you doing? This is just garbage. But they don't care because it didn't cost anything, and it can be rolled out and it can be pushed out. Well, it does
Yeah,
cost something because there's an effect to having shite out there.
yeah.
So yeah.
And I think the struggle that seems to I've begun to notice, especially in the last 5 years, is that the trouble is that the effect of that shite doesn't show up until sometime later, maybe even after the original instigator of said shite has
Yeah.
already left and moved on to another position.
And that's, I mean, I was reading something just earlier today, and forgive me whoever the author was, because I can't remember where I saw it or anything, but there was a little stat that came out of it that said, yeah, even in things like if you stop brand marketing, the likelihood is that within 2 years, your sales will be down 25%.
Mm-hmm.
And it's things like that because, again, SEO and PPC came along and it's going to kill brand marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's eating part of the dinner. Of course it is. It's all part of the mix and it has to be taken into consideration with everything. But there was a lot of people who just bought into that and said, well, it's all about the short-term stuff. I mean, I know there's loads of papers being done, the long and the short of it and all of these things, but they're not interested in reading those bits because it doesn't fit their narrative of, well, I need something that's going to work today.
Yeah.
So get me something else, and it's going to cost me nothing.
And it's difficult because the short-term things in the area of, I broadly call it performance marketing, is it often does have numbers. It's really easy to measure because it's short-term, surface level exploitation of your existing market, as opposed to, I broadly talk about the kind of work that you and I do is more brand related and more about expanding that potential audience of people that might buy from you rather than just exploiting the one that you already have.
Yeah. And I think it's I was listening to a thing, I think it was the Uncensored CMO with Rory Sutherland, and talking about how AO, the big electrical company that does the deliveries, and they take out the guy who runs it is the biggest purchaser of teddy bears in the country. Because every time he goes out, the delivery guys go out. When they deliver something, if there's kids in the house, it gives them a branded teddy bear each. Now, and as Rory rightly pointed out, that's not measurable. There's no way you can measure that. You can't measure whether it's effective or it's not. You've sometimes just got to go along with data isn't everything. It really isn't. And and again, this is a little bit of worry about where everything's going. If all you want to do is be guided by data with everything, and well, one, why does your job need to exist? Because data can be self-generating, and this comes back to the Mark Zuckerberg thing and the whole meta AI thing of everything can be just generated with it. As soon as that starts to happen, it's kind of, well, where is the differential? We've all got the same data. It will always be the same kind of thing, and it will all lead to things. And eventually it's just computers talking to computers.
Yeah, unless you have data that nobody else has, you have no competitive edge in that environment.
I mean, I think the way to engage it is to embrace everything that comes along. Look at it, everything, and say, well, how can this help? How can this make things better, make things easier, without panicking constantly? And that's the thing that gets me is just the sheer panic of it. When you think about it, the introduction of the jet engine was going to be the death of the luxury liner, because if you could fly from London to New York in 7 hours, why would you spend 2-3 weeks sitting on a boat going across it? And that was going to be the absolute death of that. Look at the UK cruise industry, or the global cruise liner industry. It's healthier than it's ever been. And so, it's not just our world that suffers from this kind of catastrophizing everything that comes along. So anything. And I think just if people could just calm the fuck down a little bit about stuff, just step back for a moment, have a look at it and go, right, okay, that's great. How can we use that? That's brilliant. But then don't just jump on silly trends of, I'm going to make a fucking model of myself looking like a toy, which, fine, you're playing with it, and you're doing these things, but have a think of the effects of that kind of stuff as well. It just, propagates the whole thing. And, I know there's a lot more coming out about it in terms of the environmental impacts that this stuff's having. And that's a big task we've got to deal with as we move forward. But there's a societal damage coming along as well. And so if you can suddenly introduce things that say, well, we're going to get the robots to do this, and we're going to get the robots to do that. And, whether it's self-driving cars or whether it's a bricklayer machine, it's kind of, well, where does that leave people? Where did, and I think we're living in an environment at the moment where people's anxiety is already absolutely sky high. I mean, I know it's talked about a lot more. Whether it's actually worse than it ever was, I'm not sure. It's just obviously out in the open a hell of a lot more than what it is. But we're kind of adding to, as a society, the anxiety of things when we're basically saying, well, actually, your job is and your purpose is pretty worthless because I'm going to find something that can do your job instead of you for virtually free. And that's the other thing is, economically, it's virtually free to do all of these things, which is why people say that. But eventually, well, who's earning money to then spend money and buy the products that you are making? If you're running, whether you're running a factory, in Aberystwyth, or you are trying to get people to go on holiday somewhere, where's the money coming from for people to do that if you're taking away their ability to earn? And that's kind of a bit of an issue that we're going down. And so you've got these big sort of things on the horizon of, well, there's the environmental issue, there's the societal issue, and so when you get these champions of these things, it's like, well, at some point, is someone going to stop and think and say, well, who actually pays for this in the end of it all? And I think, so to be positive about it, because obviously I'm falling into my own trap here of being Mr. fucking negative about these things. And it's, the positivity is we will find a way. Now, it's short term versus long term. Short term, there's going to be some hits. There's going to be some things where everybody shifts from one thing to another. We've got the, late 90s, early 2000s. There was the big .com burst, and that was going to finish everything because it was a new way of doing everything, and companies got overvalued, ridiculously so, and then there was a burst in the whole thing, and things kind of they never go back to the way they were. Everything evolves, but there is always this kind of normality, and throughout time, there is a bit of a normality to everything. Okay, the car industry. Yeah, we were all terrified back in the. I'm old enough to remember the sort of late 70s, early 80s when Fiat put out an ad that showed robots making cars, and and it was handmade by robots. Was like, and yes, the robots came in and took over the kind of the way that you make cars. But then the auto industry absolutely exploded. So there's probably just as many people working in either the auto industry or in the supply chain to the auto industry as there was back then. Anyway, it's just things move around. Believe in humanity, believe in creativity. We will find a way.
The way I want to say as well is like feels like increasingly that you can never destabilize anything too long before an equal force enters to counterbalance that. You can't, any advantage that you might get from a disruption is only ever temporary.
Yes. And there will be people who make millions, billions out of these things, and there will be, and it will, there's certain things that it will be used for good in a lot of things. There's a lot of developments in the sort of the medicine, the medical world that's going to be really good. You know, my daughter's a lawyer, and she's involved in the AI development within that industry, but she's got her eyes open to what it's going to be. Again, you know, I think about 10 years ago when AI starting to come alive, there was this thing of it's going to destroy the legal world. And yeah, it was like, well, it hasn't.
Yeah, look how
But
well
also, I'd argue, good luck taking on the fucking lawyers.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sorry. I feel like I'm obsessing here about AI, and I didn't mean to obsess about AI at all. Really.
In a way, like I feel like it's a great sort of tool for talking about every other time that this has happened as well.
Yeah.
It's just that happens to be the current one, and there are two things that I feel like what you just said that I feel like might be worth pulling apart a bit. One of which is that in a lot of the short term acting, because I wanted to say short-term thinking, but it really is an absence of thinking, is the need to be super intentional and not just grab onto trends and act and behave reactively. It's being intentional, thinking far ahead, thinking, how is this all going to even up? Because cutting costs but actively making everything shittier for your customer doesn't help you in the long run. But it'll improve might improve your immediate quarterly earnings.
I mean, you've got to look. I mean, look at the tech bro billionaires that in the news all the time at the moment, and no matter what you think of him, and and the tax policies and things like that. But Amazon as a business, they don't do anything at all that might upset their customers. Everything they do is tested to see if it makes things a little bit easier. And the huge thing that I think one of the big quotes from Bezos is, don't tell me what's going to be different in 10 years' time. Tell me what's going to be the same, because that's what we're building a company on. Mm-hmm. So yeah, in terms of the future prediction of everything's going to be shy, no, tell me what's going to be good.
Yeah. Credit to Amazon, I feel like they've done a pretty good job. They're still here 10 years on. And I can't remember the last time they did anything really remotely innovative. They've been largely the same businesses in that time, as far as I know.
But they're the thing that it became a novelty thing for a while. The introduction of Prime, everybody got to have a Prime membership because it was all about the speed. That's kind of drifting away a little bit now. The Prime thing is becoming a little bit less and less. Prime's now become, it was kind of, you had it so that you could get the TV subscription side of things. But yeah, it kind of just almost drifted away into, well, Amazon just offer great service, so I don't need the Prime bit for the whole thing. Yeah. I mean, again, the death of Prime was going to, and Prime and Kindles were going to kill every bookshop in the land. You tell me one high street in the country that doesn't have a bookshop on it.
And in fact, I remember reading somewhere that apparently book sales have never been stronger in like the last 15 years. So clearly there's something about humans' relationship to books that is not captured in proclaiming the Kindle as the death of reading.
Yeah.
I'll admit, I do not own a Kindle.
Neither do I. But and it's a real snobby thing, when you go on holiday and you sat there and you sort of on your sunbed and somebody nearby has got a Kindle and you've got your book, you can't help but feel a little bit superior to them, can you? Oh. Yeah.
No, on my last trip, I was reading a book about the history of making cheese in the United Kingdom. It's a paperback book. Maybe I'll put in the show notes if I can find the book. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, you big fan of Wallace and Gromit, or
cheese Gromit? Yeah, and so within that, like, be intentional, think long term. The other
be positive. Be. I mean, I think that's the thing that I want to get across here is positivity. Be optimistic. Be excited by things. Don't just look for the negative in everything that comes along, because there's so many people that do that. And it's kind of, well, no, just look for positivity in everything that you can find, and you'll find yourself a lot happier.
And the other thing, and I feel like you kind of danced around this, you haven't really said it, but it's the sort of thing that's been itching at the back of my brain for the last little bit. And that's like, one of the advantages I feel that we have in marketing is because our work is inherently adaptive. Anytime that anyone tries to say, oh, we're going to take this work away from you, or we're going to try and just duplicate the work that is done, is always an opportunity for exploring the negative of that.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about marketing is often so much about, we're just trying to figure out how to do something a little bit different from everybody else so that we can stand out.
Yeah.
Which means that that OpenAI, or like, identify OpenAI specifically, but generative AI is, and anything like that attempts to sort of imitate and commoditize, is always at a disadvantage, because the moment that you do that, you drain its efficacy and you put openings in for creative marketers to notice that there's a weakness or a vulnerability or something missing, and you attempting to try and put a box around what is or isn't effective marketing.
I think that I work with some amazingly talented people, and the challenge always with the briefs that we receive is, how do we think about this differently? How do we turn this on its head? Because that's how you're going to get attention. And for me, that is a skill that certain people have. I don't think it's necessarily a skill that you can fully learn. I think you learn it by doing it more often, and you get better at it. But the skill of being able to just think about things sideways is something that, at the moment, I don't think computers can do, and it be totally relevant on the whole thing. And I think, you receive a brief from a client, you receive a brief from a planner, and you instantly start looking and going, where's the little nuances in this? Where's the thing that I can turn this around? Where's the thing that I can just look at your competitors and say, well, what are they doing that we can exploit, that we know we can do better? What is the key, the messaging? What is and then, because if you're not careful, I mean, I saw, again, people maybe won't see, but Jon Harrison posted a thing a few days ago that was a BMW ad, and it was an average, pretty terrible photo of a BMW, and it just said, book a test drive, and it had a little QR code, and it was like, forget the fucking computers taking our job. If that's the best you can do, then we are all screwed.
Yeah,
because if that's what is seen as, I mean, from one of the great advertisers and brands of all time, to come out and do something like that. And as he pointed out, you want £100,000 of my money for this thing? Tell me something. Yeah, and yeah.
I remember seeing that, I think, on LinkedIn, and somebody posted the very concise caption of, so did BMW's entire marketing department go on holiday? Yeah, it is the most banal, boring, and ignorable shite that any of us had seen in a while. And you know what? If you put it on LinkedIn, people will love to hate it. It's not very productive. But yeah, it really underlines the problem.
Yeah, but way back when, if that had gone out, as an industry, we'd have left it going, oh fuck, someone's fucked up big time here. We forgot to put the headline on the artwork or the copy. Something's gone wrong, and we'd all be like, oh my god, you've got to feel for that head of studio. Oh my life, someone's getting fired over this. It's like, oh no, it was intentional. They meant it to be for you.
Positivity. John, If anybody was interested in getting to know you a bit better or wanted to have a chat with you, how could they find you?
Basically, well, my agency is One Black Bear. You can obviously find oneblackbear.com really, really easily. If you want to look for us on socials, we're under One Black Bear. We're only on LinkedIn and Instagram. Really, we've got accounts on other things, but we don't use them or engage them. Me personally, if you search Jon Harrison without a H in the John, but definitely with a H in the Harrison on LinkedIn, you'll find me. And please connect.
Cool. Thanks very much, Sean. And
Thank you, Andrew.
thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this, I would really appreciate it if you could drop a like or subscribe or a comment on whatever platform you're listening to this on. If you want to send any feedback for me directly, you can find me on LinkedIn at AG Monroe, or you can send me an email at andrew@andrewmonroe.com. Thanks very much. See you in the next one. Bye.